Hello, my name is HQ of HQ Reacts. Welcome to my channel. Please do me a favor. Hit the like button, share the stream, and click the notification button for new content. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Hello. How are we on this Friday evening? Now, everybody sees the thumbnail. Before we can talk about policies and before we talk about presidents and before we talk about blame or responsibility, we have to slow down a little bit. And I'm going to start with a story that I read when I was a child. Because if we don't understand the story, none of what I'm about to say is really going to make sense to people. The story is called The Monkey's Paw. It was written more than like 100 years ago, and the reason it has survived is not because it's scary or anything, but because it's an honest cautionary tale. It tells the truth about what happens when human beings want something badly enough to stop asking questions, to just accept it as it is. In this story, this monkey's paw, a family is given a dried up monkey's paw. They're told it can grant wishes. They're also warned clearly and directly not to use it. Not because the wishes won't come true, but because they will. That warning is very important because most people assume danger comes from failure. This story says danger comes from success. Every time someone makes a wish, one finger on the paw curls inward. That curl is the signal. It means the wish has been granted. There is no delay, no debate, no appeal. Once the finger curls, reality has already begun rearranging itself. And here's the part people miss. The monkey's paw does not judge the wish. It does not ask whether the wish is moral or immoral. It does not care if the intention is good. It simply grants the wish in the most destructive way possible. If you wish for money, you get money, but it comes through someone's death. If you wish for safety, you get safety, but it comes through fear and isolation. The paw never says no. It just makes sure the cost is unbearable. And once that finger curls, you cannot uncurl it. You cannot say, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I voted for. That's not what I meant. You cannot negotiate. You cannot refrain. The events are already in motion. That is the lesson. Not don't want things, but don't want things without wisdom and consequence. Now here is where the story stops being fictitious. The American people did not ask for this chaos. They did not ask for this cruelty. They did not ask for this instability. They asked for something reasonable. They asked for a good president. Nothing wrong with that. They asked for a good president. They asked for lower prices. Nothing wrong with that. They asked for an economy that worked for regular, ordinary Americans. They asked for safety, order, fairness. They asked for life to feel manageable again. They asked for life to feel great again. That was the wish that we wished for. People did not vote because they wanted to suffer. They voted because they were already suffering. They voted because groceries were too expensive. Rent was too high. Healthcare felt far out of our reach. And nothing seemed to improve no matter who was in charge. That context matters because what came next was not the wish itself, it was the method chose to deliver. And that method was disruption, punishment, force. That is where the monkey's paw curls. Let's start with the economy, shall we? Let's start there, at the economy. Get up there. American flag, get up there. The wish we had was simple, very simple. Lower prices, help people breathe, make life more affordable. What people got was shock. Tariffs were sold as strength. They were framed as punishment for foreign competitors and protection for American workers. But tariffs are not paid by foreign governments. They're paid by American businesses and passes directly to the American consumer. That's not theory. That's how prices work. So grocery bills rose. Construction costs climbed. Small businesses struggled to pay the bills. Families stood in long aisles doing math in their head. Seniors decided which prescriptions they could buy. Parents stretched paychecks that no longer stretched. And here is where the curl of the monkey paws tighten. Because when those tariffs were challenged in court, the administration's own lawyers acknowledged that if they were overturned, the government could be forced to reimburse those businesses for what they paid in tariffs. That means taxpayers would pay twice, once at the register and again through the Treasury. The wish was affordable. The result was distant, further and further away from it. That is the curl. Education. Our education. The next wish was efficiency in education. Didn't we want to get rid of the Department of Education? Didn't people wish for that to happen? Oh, we got the dumbest people on the block. We got the dumbest people in the planet. Why do we need to keep the Department of Education open? Less government, less bureaucracy. The curl was weakened of education in a country already struggling with literacy. What sense does it make to close that system? Education is not about schooling. It's about whether people can tell truth from manipulation, whether they understand how laws are made, whether they can recognize when they're being lied to. An uneducated electorate does not just misunderstand policy, it misunderstands blame. When people don't understand systems, they can be told anyone is responsible. Immigrants, protesters, teachers, judges, anyone. That is why education is always weakened first in authoritarian systems. Not because it saves money, like they're telling us that they're saving money by doing it, but because it limits the education and the resistance of the people. The American people did not wish to be more confused. They wished to be more secure. The curl delivered vulnerability instead. The rule of law. The wish here, the wish we all had, right? The wish we all had was strength, accountability. The curl was intimidating. Opponents were bullied. Every day we hear about this president shaking somebody down, lawyers being pressured, judges being threatened. Disbarment was floated not as a legal process, but as a warning. Institutions were treated as obstacles rather than safeguards. When the rule of law becomes conditional, when loyalty matters more than legality, the truth collapses. And when truth collapses, democracy weakens quietly, not loudly. The American people did not ask to be in fear. They asked for order. The curl is delivered. The wish was respect. We wanted respect on the world stage. Yes, we did. You notice that every time we turn around, Donald Trump is talking about respect on the national stage, on the geopolitical stage. Every time. Do you honestly think we have it with what's going on in our country? They wanted to protect, they wanted to project strength, threats of invasion, force without restraint, allies watching instead of having confidence with us, wary of us. Strong nations do not need to threaten constantly like this administration continues to do. They do not rule by spectacle, which this administration does. Power without restraint becomes brittle, and brittle power breaks. The American people did not wish to be feared. They wished to be respected. We wished to be respected. And I don't think we have that respect like we wanted it. And the most cruelest wish of all, the most cruelest wish of all, and it's almost shameful, Now we come to the most painful curl you all could give us. The wish here was control, order, a system that worked, a border. What followed was cruelty. Immigrants were demonized. Families were separated. Children were placed in cages. People were grabbed off the street. Some were sent to foreign prisons. Some were shot. Some were killed. This went beyond enforcement. This is beyond enforcement. I'm sorry. This is just cruelty for cruelty's sake. This is just cruelty for cruelty's sake. Many Americans wanted deportation. We wanted some kind of immigration system, a system, not a cruel punishment the way this has been. We wanted toughness. This went far beyond enforcement. This became punishment as a spectacle, as Saturday night show. We wanted toughness, but they did not. The Americans didn't want this. They did not ask for families to be torn apart. They did not ask for bodies. They did not ask for people getting shot in the street. 2 people. My understanding is 2 more people. 2 more people in Portland. We did not ask for suffering as proof of power. We did not ask for that. The wish crossed every boundary above the law, above humanity. This is the monkey's paw at its most brutal. At its most brutal. In this story, in this monkey paw story, there's a moment when the family realizes they don't like what's happening. No, why you doing all that? Why you ain't got to do all that? You ain't got to do all that. Right? They argue. They go into a panic. They start protesting, hitting the streets. They try to figure out how to get rid of X, Y, and Z. They try to explain it away, argue it away, but the paw doesn't respond. The finger has already curled. That's where we are right now. Because as Americans feel these consequences, higher prices, instability, cruelty, fear, they out here murking Americans. This administration is out here murking Americans. Pressure is being placed on us to accept this narrative, to accept what we're being told. And that narrative doesn't match our lived experience. Pressure to believe pain is progress is bullshit. That's that bullshit. Pressure to believe cruelty is strength. I don't know where that came from. Why? Because the curling of the fingers is not being liked by the American people. The American people are not liking the wishes that they asked for. That's why Donald Trump's ratings are so low. Because the American people got what they asked for, but they didn't think it through before they asked for it. Every monkey paws story ends the same way, not with victory, but with realization. The price of this road will not be paid in speeches. It will be paid in trust. Trust in institutions, trust in leadership, trust in the idea that system works for ordinary people. It will be paid by families stretched very thin, by communities living with fear, by immigrants treated as disposable human beings, by a country that must rebuild what has been weakened by this administration. The American people did not ask for this level of harm. But harm is what happens when a wish is granted without wisdom, without thought, without restraint, without conscience, without accountability. And no amount of narrative pressure can uncurl these fingers that we have allowed our country to get to. Cruelty is the point. That's the point of all of this. Cruelty is the point. Okay. And we're embarrassed. I get it that we're embarrassed. Okay. But we have to turn around. We have to turn around because it's going to continue. Nobody expected the death the death of a person. Nobody expected that, but they're going to continue. But they're going to continue because you know why? Because these ICE agents have immunity, have immunity. They were granted immunity when they took the job. When they took the job, they were given the immunity so they can just go and shoot whoever they want to, and it will be okay with the president because he has already granted them immunity. Okay. And this is what we have to deal with. This is what we have to grapple with. We did this. We did all of this. And that's the scary part. How do we get off this train? How do we deal with the monkey's paw? It won't be uncurled, but we got to figure it out. But we have to figure it out. Because I'm sick. I am sick. And I'm pretty sure most people are sick and tired of what has been happening. I stated earlier, right before, after Donald Trump became in office, I said every day this president was a president, we were going to have drama-filled bullshit every time. Okay. And here we are. Oh, shit. Oh, okay. And here we are. Right? Sorry about that, guys. Hold on. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. So this is where we are. Please, I would love to have, I would love to find out how we get any kind of any kind of examples of how we can get out of what we are in. I don't know why somebody would come in the chat and say that Donald Trump is a genius. Okay. I don't know why you would even come in here and say that. Okay. Knowing full well this is a headache. Okay. Knowing full well this is a headache that this president has unleashed on all of us. And it's okay. It's fine and dandy. But the point is, nobody wants this. Nobody wants this. Okay. But we're going to fight it like hell to figure out if we can give it what we can figure it out and get rid of it. Okay. Okay. We're going to try. Because this president has made it his business to say he's going to invade other countries, which means we're not going to be out of the middle of what is it? We're not going to be out of the middle of this. What the hell it is? What is it called? Stealing other people's land. Is that what it's called? Stealing somebody else's land. For example, Greenland said we're not going for it, but yet and still, Marco Rubio is supposed to be meeting with Greenland next week. Meeting with Greenland. Why? Why would you need to be meeting with Greenland? Unless you plan to do something about what's happening with Greenland, or try to move on to Greenland, or try to get into Greenland. This is what we mean by topsy-turvy. Every 15, 20 minutes, this president presents something that is unacceptable to us. Unacceptable to us. And I don't know whether it's going to be Greenland or it's going to be Colombia or it's going to be Cuba, but I guarantee you this president has something else in mind, and we are going to have another invasion to something else. So how are we going to accept? Why are we going to accept it? Why can't we do anything about it? Okay. And these people are deadly serious. They're saying, we're not going to go for this. We're not going to go for this goofy shit that the president wants to start with us. So I just want to come on and say, hey, not need to host a YouTube channel. Don't be mad. Don't be mad. The whole point is we have a rogue president who keeps breaking the law. And since he keeps breaking the law, somebody has to stop the president. I don't know how and I don't know when, but hopefully we can with the power resolution. What is the power resolution? The war power resolution? Let's speak on it. Hold on. This is the first step. And hopefully we got somebody who's going to do more. Hold on, I got 1,000 windows open, y'all. I got 1,000 windows open. A 1,000 windows open.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak with other colleagues about my War Powers Resolution, a bipartisan resolution co-sponsored by Senators Paul, Schumer, and Schiff that will be called up for vote tomorrow. And a number of senators will speak in this block, most in support of my resolution. I know at least one senator, my colleague from South Carolina, is scheduled to come speak in opposition. I spoke at length last night about sort of what I view the big picture of this, and I don't intend to speak very long. It's better now to let others have a chance to speak. But what I wanted to focus on just briefly was the fact that we did have a briefing by administration officials in the SCIF this morning, the classified setting, and I'm not at liberty to discuss the matters in that setting. I will say what I said last night. I think it's important on matters of this importance, especially war, when 200 combatants have been killed, and that number is climbing, when U.S. troops have been injured, two still in the hospital, when U.S. assets are arrayed around Venezuela, and when there is now a commitment for the U.S. to essentially manage and control the Venezuelan economy and even civil governmental services for some significant time. I think it's time for us to get this debate out of the SCIF and into the public. And so I'm hoping that the Senate committees with jurisdiction, including the Armed Services Committee on which I sit, the Foreign Relations Committee, and to the extent that this was a law enforcement operation, the Judiciary Committee will finally start to have the first public hearings where administration officials can be questioned in full view of the public so that the American public knows what's at stake. I'll say one additional thing. I made my Democratic caucus mad early on when I came in the Senate because I challenged President Obama in 2013 his proposed use of the U.S. military in Syria to punish a bad. It was a horrible. I challenged President Obama's ability to act and deploy U.S. military against Assad, even to punish Assad for bad behavior without Congress. And I remember the first time I really got shouted out in a Democratic caucus meeting, it was standing against President Obama's ability to do that unilaterally without us. And I've tried to maintain that consistent standard under Presidents Obama and then President Trump term one, President Biden and President Trump term two. Even in an instance where military action may be a good idea, and I might Bashar al-Assad for using chemical weapons, it should not be done on a presidential say-so without a vote of Congress. And so the vote tomorrow on the War Powers Resolution is not about whether we like Nicolas Maduro, whether he's a good guy. He's a bad guy. He's a dictator. He's wreaked havoc on Venezuela's economy and on human rights within Venezuela. It's instead whether the United States should engage in military action against Venezuela on a presidential say-so without a vote of Congress. And I believe the Constitution is clear, and I believe the equities in terms of the respect that we owe to our troops if we're going to deploy them gives life to that constitutional provision and really explains why it's there. The last thing I'll say before I yield to my colleague from Kentucky is one of the arguments that is being made, and this is not out of the classified setting because it's being made publicly by the administration, is this was not a military action, it was a law enforcement operation. I think that argument is specious. I think it kind of doesn't really pass the laugh test. Now, it might be an argument you would make if there was a covert operation to go into Venezuela in the dead of night and extract an indicted criminal, Nicolas Maduro, not criminal until he's prosecuted, but an indicted person to bring back the United States and face justice. If it were just the execution of an arrest, you might make the argument, maybe that's just law enforcement. And you might make it even if the military was somewhat needed to carry out the arrest warrant. This is far different than that. The boat strikes against Venezuelans in international waters, the amassing of 20% of the American Navy around Venezuela, the use of 150 aircraft deployed from 20 bases throughout the Western Hemisphere to carry out this operation, the arrest and deposition of Nicolas Maduro and his wife, but then also the U.S. decision to occupy and control the Venezuelan economy, its oil reserves, the indication from the administration that this is not a few days or a few weeks, it's likely a few years of U.S. occupation and involvement in this country with a military blockade stopping commerce into and out of Venezuela. This is not an arrest warrant. This is far bigger than that. And it's the kind of hostilities that Congress specifically had in mind when they wrote the War Powers Resolution of 1973. So I urge my colleagues to cast a vote for their own relevance. Cast a vote for your own relevance by saying that power that the Constitution gives to Congress, that it is the only body that should declare war. If you vote for me tomorrow, you reserve your right to vote for war if you think it's a bad idea, or a good idea. But if you vote for the resolution, all you are voting for is the proposition that the nation should not be in war and with an end run around you, but should only be at war if you've had the opportunity to debate and vote and put your thumbprint on the validity of the mission. And your thumbprint should be necessary if we're going to send our troops in harm's way to potentially be injured or killed. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.
And that's this is a part of the problem. It wasn't because people seem to think that us who oppose this president is because we oppose him because we just don't like him. We oppose him because X, Y, and Z, right? We oppose him because of X, Y, and Z. We oppose this president because he's making reckless decisions for Americans. He has always made reckless decisions for Americans. He has always did that. Even in his first term, he made reckless decisions for Americans. And these reckless decisions led to unexplained and unhappy consequences for the American people. Tariffs. The tariffs went completely and utterly wrong and into a failure. Took our economy straight down the tubes. He extracted billions of dollars out of our social safety net program and out of our economy just to give the richest people more money. Never thinking about the 99% of us, only thinking about 1% of Americans. He was barely leaping along monetarily when he won the presidency the second time. He was darn near out of money. Now he's flush with cash. He's enriched himself instead of enriching the American people. People are saying, well, Donald Trump is America first. There's nowhere that he has been America first. There's nowhere that he has practiced America first. Because nobody has been able to articulate a balls down, hands to the wall plan that he has for the American people, the average American people. And now we have 2, 3, I don't know whether the 2 in Portland have been unalived. I know we have 1 unalived lady. We have 1 unalived human being that should not have been unalived. And now we have this administration making excuses for unaliving human beings. This is another leg to the stool. Cruelty when it came to immigration. Unaliving American citizens, which we knew was right on the way because they had reckless disregard. When you have reckless disregard, when an organization has reckless disregard for human life, all humans are in peril. All humans are in trouble. And this administration has reckless disregard for human life. They just do. And they don't care about the American lives either, because we would not be having this spin. Republicans are rushing to smear a dead woman. Rushing to smear a dead woman. And now they're trying to paint a narrative like we didn't see what we saw. And I don't want to hear anybody talk about she hit him with the car. I don't care whether she hit him with the car. The level of threat and the level of danger did not rise to him pulling a gun out. He pulled the gun out to make her do what he wanted her to do, which meant you should not have pulled the gun out because you only wanted her to do something that you told her to do. But her stopping the car, her getting out of the car, her stopping and doing anything did not rise to the level of pulling a gun out. So therefore, she didn't ask for a gun to be pulled out on her. She didn't ask for that. He went beyond his scope. He went beyond the scope of his threatening. He could say, I felt threatened, but the danger was going away from him. She was leaving. She was trying to flee. Someone trying to flee is not a threat to you if they're trying to flee you. But we have people who want to go along with this theme, and this theme is going to get more people harmed. This steadfast determination to stand behind lawlessness is going to get other people killed.
The gentleman from California lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I would hope that any discussion or debate or amendments that could be offered would be focused on what the real purpose of this bill is and not ancillary arguments about posting cash bail. So I would urge a yes vote on the bill, and I yield back.
The chair now recognizes the ranking member, Ms. Ballant, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The majority has us here talking about bail and justice. And of course, this bill raises the key question, what is it that makes our communities safer? And in light of the events yesterday, we cannot talk about safe streets, safe communities, without addressing what happened yesterday in Minnesota. Now, we have covered many of the issues that have brought up in this bill before. We have plowed this ground before, and I will address the parts of the bill in a moment. But this administration has now spent a full year terrorizing communities and making our streets unsafe for everyone. And from where I sit, and I know I speak for my colleagues on this side of the dais, we knew it was only a matter of time.
What do you mean by strange why we care about a white girl now? What does that mean? We've always cared about white women and white men. We've cared about the whole collective. This kind of thing that happened to the young white lady normally only happened to black and brown people. Now it's happening to white young ladies. Let's see what you all as white men do about it. Are you going to allow it to continue? Because you've never stopped because we were black and it was happening to us. Let's see if you stop it. Let's see if it'll get stopped by white men.
Before we had a tragedy like this, because all the signs were there. We have tried to sound the alarm that ICE has been detaining Americans. ICE has been violating rights.
Why is it that they were trying to stop a young white lady when she was clearly American? Why were they trying to stop her if she was clearly American?
And has been using violence without seemingly any accountability. And so many of us sit here this morning absolutely enraged, but also heartsick about what has happened. Not just to this woman in that car in Minnesota who was gunned down in front of her partner, but we are deeply shocked and dismayed that this administration is in full-on propaganda mode, and it's dangerous for all of us, regardless of party. We've seen the videos from many different angles, and we have a government right now that is telling us not to believe our own eyes. And we're not stupid. And Americans aren't stupid. And thank goodness there were people there documenting what happened. And we can all watch the tapes and understand what happened. An American citizen was mercilessly gunned down. And we have a president and we have a Secretary of Homeland Security that is now lying about it. And Ms. Good would have loved to have had the opportunity to obtain bail. If she was in violation of state or federal law, she would have loved to have had the opportunity to take advantage of bail and have her case heard in court. And yet the ICE agent in that moment was judge, jury, and executioner. And it's a tragedy and it's a national disgrace. And it's difficult to sit here and hear my colleague who is introducing this bill talk to us about the dangers of releasing violent criminals out on the street through bail.
Are we supposed to be happy that 2 individuals that were illegal were shot? Are we supposed to be happy in any way? they're incidental. Them getting shot is incidental. Her yesterday, Renee Good, she was incidental. The problem is ICE, not the victims. We know there's going to be victims. We knew there would be victims. The point is ICE is killing people without regard, and they have immunity. If nothing else, that man who shot Renee should be brought up on some kind of investigation and been grilled about why he thought the threat was so high, the threat was so lethal that he needed to kill her instead of maiming her. At the very least, he should be brought up in front of a committee and asked those questions.
When we are still dealing with the horror of the president pardoning the violent felons that attacked this building and that attacked law enforcement. And several of them have reoffended. And so we sit here and we will once again be subjected to a conversation about bail. And it is not at all rooted in fact about crime in this country. The data has shown and continues to show that violent crime is down. Property crimes are down. Homicides are down. There is absolutely no evidence suggesting that the posting of bail by a state or local bail fund affects interstate commerce in any meaningful way. I expect my Republican colleagues today to spend the time citing purely anecdotal evidence. And of course, there are individual stories of people who have committed violent offenses after being bailed out by nonprofit bail funds. And each is tragic. Just like the murder of Ms. Good was tragic. And what we need right now is a president and an attorney general and a secretary of Homeland Security being honest with the American people that this was a tragedy and that they are going to look into the circumstances by which an American citizen was gunned down. And there is no question, and again, I speak for my colleagues, there is no question that we must address the root causes of violent crime. We have to invest in proven solutions, such as community violence intervention and drug treatment, and support law enforcement with funding and other resources, something that has not happened under this administration. If the majority decides to get serious about public safety in America,
Wow, why always you got one goofy that come in the chat and say something dumb as hell? And it wasn't a lot of us who cheered about Charlie Kirk's death. Get that shit straight. We've heard that over and over. We cheered because Charlie Kirk died, but that didn't stop you from cheering that George Floyd died, did it? That didn't stop y'all from cheering that George Floyd died, did it? So shut your ass up. They do it on both sides.
we will welcome that opportunity. But this legislation is not a solution. And for us to be discussing this in light of what happened yesterday feels completely and totally inappropriate. This legislation is no solution at all, and I urge my colleagues to join me in voting no on H.R. 6260, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back without objection. All of the opening statements will be included in the record. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
I just don't understand why they can't say a thing is a thing? Why they can't say this is a tragedy? Why is it that Republicans are pretending like, oh no, she shouldn't have been out there. Oh no, she shouldn't have been X, Y, and Z. Oh no, she shouldn't have, it was her fault. What she did not rise to the level of him pulling a gun out. Specifically, seeing as how she wasn't an immigrant, they had her license plate, they could have followed her, and when she stopped, they could have pulled her over. It would have been safe, no problems, no headaches. They could have did all that, but they didn't. He chose a different route. Hence, him being guilty. He chose a different route other than what he could have done.
Wisconsin to offer an amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Mr. Chairman, I do have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment in the
Without
nature of.
objection, the amendment in the nature of substitute will be considered as read and shall be considered base text for the purpose of amendment. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin to explain the amendment.
Yeah, this amendment simply adds the year to the short title of the bill. It's not intended to make any changes or alter the fundamental purpose of the bill. I urge its adoption. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Who seeks recognition?
Mr. Chairman,
Gentlelady from Washington is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I move to strike the last word.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, what happened yesterday in Minneapolis should terrify every single one of us. An ICE agent fired 3 shots, killing a 37-year-old unarmed U.S. citizen, Renee Nicole Good, as she was driving away from ICE agents on a residential street in Minneapolis.
We all saw the video. First name, last name. We all saw the video. I don't care whether she was speeding or X, Y, and Z. She was not speeding. She was getting out of there, trying to get out of there. But does that rise to the level of him pulling a gun out and shooting a person? No, it does not. That's the thing. That's what the case would be hinged on. If they all didn't have immunity, if the president didn't give them immunity before they even got to doing anything, just because she struck him, according to you, first name, last name, doesn't mean she deserves to go die. That's what we're telling your goofy ass. It doesn't matter whether she meant to hit him or not. It doesn't rise to the level of him pulling a gun out.
Minneapolis, Minnesota. Her death leaves a 6-year-old boy without any parents. And we on this committee should be immediately investigating this. We should bring Kristi Noem to us. We should have that conversation. But instead of conducting an investigation and doing the work to hold this rogue ICE agent accountable for killing a U.S. citizen, Kristi Noem has gone on a full-fledged lying spree.
Wait a minute. Who told you this? Who told you this? What is it? Ruby Moore. Who told you this? Did the administration that's lying about this young lady tell you this? That's the thing. I can't trust what they say. I don't understand why you can trust all that they say. Look at this shit here, crashing out in the chat. Just walked in the door and crashing out in the chat. Some of y'all be over the age of 21, but your brain just hit 6 years old and don't know how to grow up. This shit is dumb as hell, Wanda.
Spreading lies that any person who watches this video can see are lies. She even had to get the president of the United States to go on social media and continue the lies. The problem, Mr. Chairman, is that there are videos. There are videos that everyone can watch that completely destroy these lies that Noam and Trump are spreading. So let's play one of those videos right now.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my fucking God! What the fuck? What the fuck? You just fucking, what the fuck?
And we saw him walking back and forth in front of the car. Secretary Noam outrageously claimed without any evidence whatsoever that it was, quote, an act of domestic terrorism. DHS and ICE immediately claimed the woman who was shot and killed by an ICE agent, quote, weaponized her vehicle and attempted to run over law enforcement when the video clearly shows she is trying to drive away. And according to reporting, ICE officers are trained to never approach a vehicle from the front, as this officer did. Instead, they are taught to approach in a, quote, tactical L, 90-degree angle to prevent injury or crossfire. Mr. Chairman, we need an independent investigation into what happened in Minneapolis. This is not the first time this has happened. In only the last 4 months, immigration agents have fired on at least 9 people. And ICE also shot and killed Silverio Villegas Gonzalez in Chicago and suddenly claimed he was violent. Congress needs to step up. This committee needs to step up. And I ask you, Mr. Chairman, to please make sure that we bring Secretary Noam before us. Where is Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons? Where is Attorney General Bondi? This committee is conducting no oversight and is derelict in its duty to the American people.
Time of the gentlelady has expired.
Thank you, and I ask for unanimous consent, Mr. Chairman,
You see request?
to put into the record an
That's the problem. They're not allowing it to be investigated by anybody other than Kristi Noem and her goons. They're going to let them kill the girl and not do anything about it. They're going to let it. The Republicans are going to let the ICE people kill the girl and not do anything about it. And once people find out, once these ICE agents find out that nothing is going to happen to this man, whatever his name is, nothing is going to happen, then it's all out war on the streets. I don't give a damn. She tried to run me over. I don't give a damn. She didn't want to listen to what I say, so I shot her in the back. I don't give a damn. She was talking lip to me. She was saying something out of order, and then I shot her in the face. I don't give a damn. If they allow that man to walk away without any kind of repercussions, it's open season on you white folks too. Welcome to America. We black people say welcome, welcome all, welcome children, straight to the world that we've been living in. Welcome all. Immunity, always. Now there's no immunity for your skin. Your skin doesn't give you a pass now. Welcome to what we've been going through.
article titled, ICE officers trained never to approach a vehicle from the front, DHS official says.
Objection.
From the New York Times, deadly Minneapolis encounter is the 9th ICE shooting since September.
Objection.
I yield back.
Chair, now, gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to respond briefly to this, that number one, I think it's unbelievably irresponsible to throw out words like murder to reach a conclusion before any further investigation is due. That's inflammatory. It's sensitive. It's unbelievably irresponsible. And, you know, my colleague mentioned that there was a tragedy in Minnesota, and I think that we're...
No, it's not okay to run over law enforcement. He didn't get run over. He didn't need to go to the hospital. And even if he did, first name, last name, how many times do I have to say to you, it still doesn't rise to the level of him pulling a gun out and ending her life. How many goddamn times do we have to say that to you? It doesn't rise to the level of him getting, him pulling out a gun and shoot. It doesn't rise to the level. I mean, wait a minute, hold on. This morning I thought I was listening to Spanish when I was talking, because I was talking Spanish and I thought I was speaking English, and I was kind of fucked up for a minute. Am I speaking Spanish or something crazy? Because last name, first name, act like the fuck he can't understand what I just said to him. It doesn't rise to the level of him pulling out a gun.
Missing the tragedy. We have seen a governor, an AG, a mayor, local officials, top to bottom, encouraging citizens to violently protest federal authorities who are seeking to remove people who are here illegally. And specifically, people who are here illegally committing crimes. That's what's so outlandish to me. That's the tragedy here. You have elected officials who are leveraging their political capital to protect those who are here illegally. And of course, whenever anyone loses a life, it is a tragedy, but you cannot avoid the facts of this case. The officers approached the vehicle. They asked the woman to stop. They asked her to get out of the car. She did not comply. She hit the gas pedal. All of those were avoidable. Had she obeyed the instructions of law enforcement, there would have been a very different outcome. So to all who watch, when law enforcement approaches, especially if you're trying to obstruct their mission, obey. Don't hit the gas pedal. Get out of the car. Mr. Chairman, I yield back the balance of my time, but again, let me just reiterate, throwing out inflammatory rhetoric before there has been any conclusion drawn is unbelievably irresponsible, and it adds to an already inflamed situation, and I urge my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to stop it.
Gentleman yields. We got to line up, but I'll probably go to the ranking member, and then I'll work right down the line.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Chairman. And I intervene here only because I want to respond to my friend from North Carolina, who I think starts with the incontrovertible point that it's wrong to prejudge whether this was murder. Then it is equally wrong to prejudge that it's self-defense. And I hope that that my colleague, with his astute prosecutorial understanding, would just as much reprove the Attorney General and the President for going out and claiming this was self-defense without a complete investigation, especially when all the evidence of our senses would suggest, if we're going to jump to a conclusion, we should jump to a conclusion that this was murder and not self-defense. But that's why we have the law. That's why we have a legal process. Now, the gentleman correctly states the situation, except he aborts the analysis midway. He says, well, she was told to stop, she was told not to go anywhere, but still she drove her car away. And I certainly saw that. The Supreme Court has a decision just on this point, which I'm sure the gentleman knows. It was decided in 1985. Everybody in criminal procedure learns it. Tennessee versus Garner, 1985, because Tennessee had a statute which said if there is someone fleeing the police, they can be shot. And the Supreme Court said that's not the rule. They can only be shot if they're fleeing the police if the police have probable cause to believe that the suspect poses a significant threat of death or danger to other people. Now, Ms. Good, who's a 37-year-old mom of a 6-year-old boy, now orphaned by ICE, posed no threat to anybody. At least as far as we can tell, there's no suggestion that she posed a reasonable threat to anybody. That's the legal question. Now, I think our committee should launch an investigation into this. This would be a worthwhile subject for us to get into at this point. But the idea that simply because she disobeyed an order that she can be shot in the face at point blank is wrong. That's not the law in the United States of America. And you know who knows that? Everybody on this side of the aisle who talks about Ashley Babbitt. Because everybody talking about Ashley Babbitt seems to think that, well, she was told repeatedly to turn around and to leave, and then she still tried to use violence to get into our chamber, into the speaker's lobby, in order to get at us. And She was shot and
See the hypocrisy there? Do you all see the hypocrisy there? She shouldn't have been killed. Ashley Babbitt was just trying to get in the door. She shouldn't have been killed. It's the same scenario. Get a grip. No, you get a grip, Brendan. Brenda Sue, you get a grip.
repelled. And there were two different investigations which found that that was reasonable force used by the police because she was coming at them. But what we had in this case was this woman was trying to leave. She was trying to get away from it. She wasn't coming at the police. She was trying to get away from the police. So to the extent that we want to engage in an immediate post-mortem analysis, and I agree with the gentleman that this is why we have law. This is why we have a real legal investigation, and it is completely irresponsible for the president and the attorney general to be out there claiming against all evidence that this was self-defense. This is why we have law. Okay, then we should wait until
the evidence ain't even in. Her body ain't even warm. Her body ain't even at the morgue. They ain't even identified her next of kin, and they talking about she deserved it. She deserved it. Ashley Babbitt didn't deserve it, neither did she.
we can make a final pronouncement upon that. But let's at least get down what the law is. This is the House Judiciary Committee, and people cannot be shot in the face simply because they walk away from a police officer, and especially when we've got police officers who are masked. And I just want to finish on this point, and I'm happy to yield to my friend, because look, all of us represent jurisdictions. We've got local police, we've got county police, we've got state police. None of them are masked. We've got the Army, we've got the Navy, we've got the Marines. None of them are masked. We've got the National Guard. None of them are masked. Why is ICE masked? This is what we want to know. Nobody's given us a good answer for this. Now, one suggestion comes from the fact that we have multiple January 6th defendants who are working at the Department of Justice itself, including Ed Martin and Jared Wise. So if they're hiring them at the Department of Justice, presumably they're hiring them at the Homeland Security and ICE, and maybe they don't want them to be identified because, of course, those people were very well video documented on the day of January 6th. There's a lot of suspicion that that's why these people are being masked, and they're not even telling us why they're being masked. But it's precisely this episode which demonstrates why people are afraid of ICE and will try to move away from ICE rather than submit to their order, even when people need to submit to a lawful order of the police. Happy to yield to the gentleman.
Well, and just in terms of the masks, I think it goes without saying that there is an element of undue danger when you deal with international criminals. But in regards to the facts of this case, is it not relevant the angle from the officer's perspective? The only angles I've seen have been from hindsight, where the officer was who pulled the trigger, and I'll stipulate it was a tragedy. Is it relevant to see what he saw? He couldn't see that the wheels were turning, if they were. He couldn't see what where the trajectory was. He was right in front of the car that accelerated in his direction. Is that not a relevant consideration to the ranking member?
Well, of course it's a relevant consideration. Yeah, I mean, if it comes down to a legal question, all of that is completely relevant. But what the administration is saying cuts completely against what we're able to see with our own eyes. Thanks.
The time of the gentleman's expired. The gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find it interesting that the Democrats are calling for an investigation and yet at the same time labeling the shooting that took place in Minneapolis as a murder. It sounds to me like they've made up their mind. They called it a mercilessly gunned down, ICE using violence. The administration's in full-on propaganda mode, terrorizing, making our streets unsafe. I mean, you know what? There's not been one Democrat that I have heard since ICE has been enforcing the law, one Democrat at any level of government, local, county, state, federal, that has said to people, we don't like what ICE is doing, but you have to de-escalate the attacks on ICE. We don't like what ICE is doing. I haven't heard a single Democrat urging de-escalation. I haven't heard one Democrat urging that anti-ICE protesters step back, stand down, stop attacking, stop doxing, stop obstructing, stop inciting violence, stop inciting illegal conduct. I haven't heard one Democrat urge the public to obey orders of law enforcement.
Would the gentleman yield?
What I have heard is that Democrats have said, oh, they're wearing masks. They should be frightened of ICE. They're wearing masks. You've concluded that the woman posed no threat. But if the ICE agent, and then you argued the Garner, Tennessee case. But if the ICE agent believed there was a threat to himself or other agents, that doesn't save your argument, because even the Tennessee Garner case would justify the shooting. It would if the officer believed that he was in danger and in imminent harm.
If the gentleman would yield, I can correct your misunderstanding.
No, you've got.
No, I don't have enough time for that anyway.
You're the one who's misunderstanding here. What I would suggest to you, if this woman really wanted bail, as your predecessor speaking on the Democrat side had said, not your immediate predecessor, but a couple people before you, she could have chosen to stop her car. She could have obeyed a lawful order to remove herself from the vehicle. That's what she could have done. I don't know what was going on in her mind, and I don't know yet what was going on in the mind of the officer, and neither do you. But when you come in here and sit down and say, let's investigate this murder, which is effectively what you're saying, what you're doing is undermining the very notion of an impartial investigation. And that does not inure to your benefit. I think the underlying reason that we're here is Mr. Fitzgerald's bill. I think it's a good bill. I think it's warranted. I think it's necessary. I support that bill. But I would just get back to this point. I just find it interesting that the Democrats are demanding an investigation when they apparently have already determined the legal outcome. That's what Mr. Raskin's arguing. They've determined the factual outcome. That's what your predecessors were both arguing. And at the same time claiming we need to have an investigation because we've already made up our mind, but we wanted an investigation. That's crazy. And I again get back to my point. I've yet to hear Democrats say, calm down. What I hear instead is an incitement to further violence against ICE.
Will the gentleman yield?
An incitement. No, I won't. I'll give you another example out of Tucson. ICE goes into a restaurant. They go into a restaurant. They've got 19 warrants. Somebody been tipped off. The entire restaurant is devoid of personnel except for the manager. They go to leave because there's no one to serve their warrants on. But protesters have come and chained the locks on the door so they can't escape. The ICE officers can't exit. And then they call and they get a big protest out there. And by the time the city of Tucson Police Department gets there, you've got a massive protest going on, resulting in some pushing and shoving and altercation. No one stands up and says.
The point is, this administration has already deemed him not guilty. When so many people in the American public says he's guilty, and the administration says, no, he's not guilty, blah, 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 then we have a conflict. You just can't take him unilaterally. You cannot say unilaterally that this person is innocent when all of us saw what we saw. It has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt that what he did was not criminal. You can't just say, oh, he's not guilty. Oh, he shot him in front of everybody. Oh, she's not guilty. He's not guilty. No, you have to prove that he's not guilty. You can't just exclaim that he's not guilty. And this is exactly what the administration is doing, exclaiming that he's not guilty. On top of the fact they're saying, oh, he has immunity. He has immunity? What the hell you mean he has immunity? If he doesn't have immunity and all of the ICE agents, if he has immunity and all the ICE agents have immunity, then that means they can go and kill anybody they want to and be not guilty in the line of their duty. That's wild. And that's, I don't care what you say, that's wild. And most people don't even have that. So why would a president give ICE immunity? Because they know they're going to be doing things that are illegal and maybe even murder. No, y'all can murder them. They black and brown people. We don't give a damn. They can murder y'all. Y'all can murder them. It ain't no big deal. Because they knew this kind of thing would present itself. That's why they gave them immunity.
As on your side of the aisle, no one stands up and says, let's stop that. Let's stop doxing these ICE agents. Let's stand down. I'm not hearing that. Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Gentleman yields back. I think we'll go to Mr. Nadler, and like I said, work down the line.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to join my colleagues in expressing my outrage over yesterday's horrific murder by an ICE agent in Minnesota that took the life of an innocent and defenseless young woman. The video clearly shows 3 shots through this side window. There is no threat to the officer when he's on the side. And to make it even worse, ICE agents then refused to allow a doctor to approach the victim. Now, my conclusion, as I said, is that this is murder. Others will disagree. This committee ought to investigate that. Unfortunately, this tragedy was the predictable result of a brutal and reckless campaign to strike fear in immigrant communities across the country. The same agency whose masked agents are arresting U.S. citizens and tearing children away from their parents is using increasingly aggressive and violent tactics that can only lead to more tragedy. And this is being fueled by billions of dollars approved by this committee to fund not only these aggressive raids, but also to fund a military-style recruitment operation with lax hiring standards and loosened training requirements. The horror of yesterday's shooting has been compounded by the outrageous lies told by the highest levels of the Trump administration in an attempt to convince the public that they didn't see what they saw, to convince the public that the victim brought this upon herself in some way by threatening the agents, when video of the incident clearly shows that is not the case. Just as the White House has tried to rewrite the history of January 6th with false and malicious misinformation spread on its website, administration officials are now trying to tell us not to believe what we see with our own eyes.
I thought he had to go to the hospital. My understanding was he needed to go to the hospital. He was walking around like he didn't give a damn after we saw the pictures. We saw what he looked like. We saw all of that. He wasn't limping at all. He wasn't limping at all. That's a lie. He was not limping. And then he walked it off. Whatever he did, he walked it off because he wasn't limping when he got near the camera. And they were high-fiving. How do you high-five after you unalive a person? Hey, welcome to the party, white people. Welcome to the party. Black folks been dealing with this kind of shit for a long time, killing us on camera without immunity, without any kind of impunity, any kind of problem, no kind of arrest. Very rare, very rare.
This is dangerous and offensive, and this calls out for immediate oversight by this committee. We should be having hearings and demanding accountability.
That's exactly right. I'm saying if you allow this to happen now, it's going to continue to. How do we know that they didn't make that shit up in Portland just to make their narrative sound better? How do we know that they didn't do that just to make their narrative sound better? Y'all notice that they hit all the buttons on that Portland. They from Antifa, and they're belonging to gang, and he got gang signs, and he was throwing them up, and they was chasing me, and they hit all the damn notes on them 2 people in Portland. How the hell we know that that's what actually happened in Portland, and those people actually were gang members in X, Y, and Z? Are you serious right now? just to make their narrative sound better? I bet you that's wild.
For all those involved, we should be having hearings on the standards used by ICE in recruitment and training. We should demand the appearance of Secretary Noam before this committee.
Y'all Republicans be goofy. You MAGA people be goofy as hell. Don't even know nobody. Don't nobody know no Nadler. Don't nobody know nothing about him. You can't name 2 things that man has done that will make you get on here and say this dumb shit like this. Y'all be killing me. Just because he's a Democrat, if you want to call him a shitty person because he's a Democrat, say that. But don't try to impugn his character because you don't know fuck all about that man. That's wild. See the shit they come on here and say and don't know jack about the people.
But instead, here we are today with yet another set of partisan messaging bills that will do nothing to keep our community safe. My heart goes out to the victim's family, to all those who knew and loved her. May her memory be a blessing. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, I have a UC.
I think your president fucked up this time. Yeah, we're going to cope even harder, like y'all coped after Charlie Kirk died. Make it make sense. Good for you.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Arizona, unanimous consent request.
Yes, I'll introduce for unanimous consent the case of Tennessee versus Garner, where in the first paragraph they conclude that such force may not be used unless it is necessary to prevent the escape and the officer has probable cause to believe that the suspect poses a significant threat of death or serious physical injury to the officer or others.
That objection that will be entered in the record. The gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Van Drew, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's 2 issues here. One of them, since we're into this, it's very possible and probable the officer believed there was a clear and present danger here. And whether somebody, brings a gun out, or they are picking up a bat, or they are wielding a knife, or they are driving a car can be used as a weapon. There's a real issue here. Nobody's saying that we shouldn't look at this or investigate it. We're saying it should be done in a fair and thoughtful way, understanding the circumstances at the time, which were violent circumstances, where it would be probable that multiple officers would feel their life was at risk because somebody was not obeying the law. Ladies and gentlemen, the easiest thing here is when a police officer asks you to do something, you just calmly and legally do it. Is that such a bizarre notion? And then nothing happens. But if you purposely are disobeying what was asked of you and you're behind the wheel of a car, nobody can imagine what you may or may not do. So to believe that there was no danger, that there was no reason, is ludicrous. It's buffoonery. Certainly, there was something there and an area of concern. The second thing I want to say, I've been on this committee a while now. Every single bill that comes up, on the other side, they change it from what is the substance of that bill. I feel bad for Mr. Fitzgerald. He did a lot of work on this bill. He believes in the bill. The bill deserves a thorough discussion, a robust debate, but nope. If this issue hadn't happened in Washington, we would be talking about the cost of living. Or if we weren't talking about the cost of living, we'd be talking about Venezuela. Or we'd be talking about the Trump Kennedy Center. Or we'd be talking about January 6th, because it is never, ever, ever about the bill. But yet, that's what we should be debating. Debate and dialogue, disagreement is good, but for God's sake, let's talk about the real issue. But no, it's the politics of the day. I love politics. I get politics. But sometimes you put that aside in a substantive and important committee like Judiciary, maybe just once in a while, just once in a blue moon, we might actually talk about the issue at hand, might talk about the bill that we're debating, rather than bring whatever the issue is. And God help us, again, it's horrible this happened, but if this didn't happen, it would be something else. So, my thought is, Mr. Fitzgerald, I support your bill. I would love to be able to debate it and discuss it, but I guess we're not going to do that. but it's not once or twice. It's every single meeting we have. I'm sorry to say the other side does the same thing. And I yield to my good friend from Texas.
Thank you, sir. Very valid comments. Served in law enforcement for 30 years as a sheriff, and I will just say this to all the bad people out there, the people that are obstructing, fighting with federal law enforcement. My warning to you is this: if you comply, you will not die. That's it. Just comply. If you comply, you will not die. I yield.
I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Mr. Chairman, I have a UC request.
Gentlelady is recognized for unanimous consent.
This is from CNN Politics. DHS officials privately expressed shock at department's immediate response to Minneapolis shooting.
Objection not being entered in the record. Mr. Cohen, if I could, Ms. McBath had asked for recognition, very first one, and I started going down, so I'll go to her and then I'll come to you, Steve. The gentlelady from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wish to just speak on this bill today and my opposition to it. But really, I hope that the world is appalled at this administration's blatant and egregious culture of sadistic violence towards the American people. And today we're talking about keeping violent offenders off of our street. I hope that the world isn't looking at America thinking that our law enforcement and ICE agents themselves are not violent offenders. But I do digress. I want to talk about the bill as our colleague from New Jersey has expressed. Let's talk about the bill. As Americans struggle to afford groceries, fill their gas tanks, save their family farms, or find jobs that pay a livable wage, this committee is focusing on weaponizing the federal government against bail funds and strengthening the for-profit bail bond industry. H.R. 6260 is yet another example of misguided, unnecessary federal meddling into policies that should be left to the states by the so-called party of states' rights that does nothing to promote public safety. And while this bill is aimed at discouraging or even destroying bail funds, any organization that posts monetary bail, criminal bonds, or federal immigration bail bonds would be subject to the federal insurance fraud statute. That's not just bail funds that would be subject to criminal liability. That's churches, faith groups, nonprofits, and any other community organizations that pool financial resources to protect people from a system that punishes poverty, destabilizes families, and oftentimes coerces guilty pleas. Mr. Chairman, sometimes the most effective tools for justice are local, nimble, and born from the communities that they serve. H.R. 6260 is aimed directly at those very tools, which often serve as a lifeline for thousands of low-income Americans, leaving only a potential windfall for the for-profit commercial bail industry. Proponents of this bill have previously claimed that bail funds operate in the shadows and that their donations come with little to no scrutiny. That is simply untrue. For example, the Bail Project, a 501c3 organization, is subject to regular monitoring and oversight by the IRS. Adding additional nonsensical layers of bureaucracy will not make our community safer, but it will make it harder for organizations like the Bail Project to help people in need. And let's be real, most of them are people of low income, poor people. There are nearly 500,000 people across the country in pretrial detention, meaning they're sitting in jail, who have not been convicted of a crime because they cannot afford to pay for their freedom. Without the help of organizations willing to help by providing free bail assistance, whether designated as a bail fund, church, or other nonprofit, people who cannot afford bail might languish in jail for weeks, months, or even years while they're waiting for trial. They can lose their jobs, their homes, their medical coverage, access to medical care or medication, or even custody of their children. I too want to keep violent offenders off the street. Everyone in this chamber wants to keep violent offenders off the street, but this bill will not do that. H.R. 6220 will punish Americans before a conviction is even determined. A charge is not a conviction, meaning there is no determination of guilt. Yet this bill will keep charged Americans jobless. It will keep charged Americans homeless. It will keep charged Americans in poverty. And it has the potential to leave the children of charged, not convicted Americans parentless. I oppose this legislation and I urge my colleagues to do the same. And I yield the balance of my time.
Gentlelady yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Florida. Ms. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'll begin by acknowledging and appreciating our colleague, Ms. McBath, for discussing in some detail there the merits of the legislation and the bill that we are considering. The bill that we are actually debating today relates to the real-world consequences of cash bail policies. And when done incorrectly, these policies put dangerous individuals back on the streets over and over again, despite known risks and despite warnings from law enforcement and our courts. For too long, we have treated bail policy as if it is some kind of academic debate, and it is not. When individuals with violent histories are released without meaningful accountability, the risk is transferred to
Sort of like the January 6th crowd, sort of like getting them released or pardoned, sort of like that, without no accountability.
the men and women of our communities and the men and women of law enforcement who are then forced into high-risk encounters and situations. And I want to be equally clear about one additional thing, and that is that ICE agents are federal law enforcement agents who are tasked with the enforcement of existing federal law passed by Congress. Disagreement about immigration policy does not justify harassment, obstruction, defiance of lawful authority, and we cannot normalize attacks on law enforcement or excuse them. When we do that, we erode the rule of law itself. I have seen the consequences when risk assessments are ignored or repeat offenders are put back on the streets without accountability in our court system. Those consequences are real. The results are predictable and they are dangerous. If we are serious about preventing future tragedies and keeping our communities safe, we must stop pretending that law enforcement is the problem and start confronting policies that put dangerous people back on the streets. We are capable of making those assessments, distinguishing between people who should be out, who should be at liberty pending trial, and those who should not because they put their communities at risk. This is a good bill. I support this bill, and Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Thank you. We now will go to Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move to strike the last word.
Gentleman's recognized.
My friend, Mr. Van Drews, suggested that Democrats always talk about something other than the bill. Unfortunately, he was wrong when Ms. McBath spoke before I did and started talking about the bill. The bill is somewhat like fiddling while Rome burns. I don't want to suggest for the Grand Ole Opry, even though that's a wonderful institution. But this is fiddling while Rome burns. And what happened in Minneapolis strikes at the heart of this country, strikes at freedom, opportunity to participate in demonstrations. I guess in a way with their car parked there was a demonstration. It was a disapproval of what the government was doing. That officer put his car in reverse. The lady put her car in reverse after an officer came up to her and tried to grab the door and pull it open and yell the F word at her and said, "Get that F out of the car." That was not the way to approach her. He approached her in a violent way, and she certainly probably feared for her safety. She went in reverse slowly, then she went forward slowly, and she turned her wheels. And then the man shot her, and shot her. And then when she ran into another car, he walked down there slowly, looked in, walked away like the head of a marching band at a pretty good pace, and walked away. This was all on video. Yet the president said that he was taken to the hospital and was seriously hurt when the car hit him. There's no evidence the car hit him, and he walked like he was an Olympic runner when he came back. He didn't go to the hospital. If he did, it was horse manure. What happened to that woman was unjustified, and that's what I've said. I didn't say it was murder. That's for a jury to decide. It's homicide, but it was unjustified. And for Kristi Noem to have said it was domestic terrorism when she was not on the scene and didn't see anything and was cosplaying, and when the president said it was terrorism and that the officer had been hit with the car and was in the hospital, that was lying to the American public. and that was taking that woman's death in without any idea of it giving just not right now. Thank you, sir. That was taking away due process and her right to be heard. I taught police law. I was a police attorney. And not only is it part of what Mr. Raskin raised, Walter Bailey was my cohort on the county commission before, when he took up the case of Garner v. Tennessee. And we talked about that, and police were taught never to shoot at a moving vehicle. That's what I taught them, because that was the law. And you couldn't shoot unless you were reasonable fear of death, harm, or great bodily injury to you or someone else. That officer was not in great bodily injury and harm. He put himself in front of the car, and when she drove forward at a slow rate of speed, it might have been, I don't know what it was very slow, he was on the side. And the other officers had their guns drawn too. So what this committee looks to look at, Mr. Chairman, is we need to look at how these people are trained and what qualifications they have. I've asked in a committee meeting here about 8 months ago for the chairman to ask Ms. Nome about the statement she made, because I'd written her and said, I agree, we need to get murderers, rapists, sex predators, the worst of the worst off the streets. But you don't seem to be doing that. That's not who you're arresting. And she hasn't responded. And when she did, it was pablum. And I wrote her a second time, and she gave me more pablum. They're arresting, and they said, I heard on the news today when I got up, rapists, murderers, sexual predators. They're arresting people who are here in the country illegally, which is normally a civil offense and a misdemeanor, but that's who they're stopping. Over 90% of their stops are people who've not had a criminal record whatsoever. And the people in Minneapolis don't want it, and the people in Memphis don't want that. The people throughout this country think.
A lot of y'all in the comment section justifying the fact that he shot an innocent woman. You're justifying the fact that she got shot. That's wild. You know, you didn't like it when people were telling you about Charlie Kirk deserving what he got. That's just like saying Charlie Kirk deserved to do what he needed. It happened to him. Charlie Kirk deserved it. He was fucking around and finding out when he opened his mouth and was telling all the lies that he was telling. So he fucked around and found out. That sounds dumb as hell. She fucked around and found out. The level, it did not rise to the level of him pulling a gun out. Y'all sound goofy as hell.
Think it's wrong. Get the worst of the worst. But don't tell us you're getting the worst of the worst when that's hardly anybody you're getting. You're getting people who contribute to our society in construction, in all different kind of employment, and they're commit crime at a lesser rate than the other folks who are not of their particular class or background. It was awful what happened there. And the woman was killed simply because she was on the scene and she was protesting ICE, and ICE took it as a disrespect to them, and the man shot her and killed her. What the president said was wrong. What Nome said was wrong. An investigation needs to take place, but an investigation by the state of Minnesota. And I feel very comfortable with our colleague, former colleague Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, being in charge of that. I know justice will be sought and wrought, and if there's a conviction, there won't be a pardon. Because if it's a federal, it's going to be a pardon like this. And what happened was wrong, and that's what we need to talk about. So, Mr. Chairman, I urge you to have a hearing on what are the qualifications. I've heard they've got people in the ICE troops who have criminal records they don't look at. The advertisements, the last thing before I close, advertisements by ICE on television say, law enforcement officers, if you're not liking the fact that you're held up in your hands, you feel like you're handcuffed by rules and regulations, that you thought you could do something about things when you join the police department, join ICE. The inference is you won't have handcuffs and rules and regulations, and we'll pay you $50,000 as a bonus, and we'll give you general pensions. Join ICE. They're asking people to leave local law enforcement, which is the primary problem in this country, is local law enforcement, and go to work for ICE and have very few restrictions. Make sure they have training. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. I believe the gentlelady from California first, and then we'll go to Georgia.
You sound goofy as hell, Pat Jager. Her asking for it, you sound goofy as hell when you say that. When the hell did anybody ask to get shot in the face? I just want to know, what law says you're supposed to get shot in the face when somebody tell you to turn around, get out of the way, move out, get out of the car? What law says that she's supposed to get shot in the face? I'm waiting because y'all sound goofy as hell when you say she deserved to get shot. She deserved to get arrested, but she didn't deserve to get shot.
You have? Okay. Was he first? Oh, I was trying to go in order.
Chairman, have we
that you've been
called the question on the amendment?
They trying to make her a domestic terrorist. They sound goofy as hell. Y'all sound goofy as hell when you play the video back. That man didn't need to go to the hospital. That man wasn't hit or hurt. And she sure as hell didn't do anything for him to pull a gun out and she get murked.
Yet.
You don't get murked because you run somebody over or run their foot over. You don't deserve to get murked. That's what I'm saying. The level of violence is out of proportion for what she did. I don't give a damn whether she should have stopped. Oh, well, yes, maybe she should have stopped. Maybe she should have kept her mouth shut. Maybe she should have did X, Y, and Z. But it didn't mean he needed to pull a gun out and murk her. That's what the fuck we're saying. Y'all keep saying, she deserved it. She deserved it. She deserved it. No, she didn't deserve to get murked. She deserved to get arrested, but not murked.
The amendment in the nature of the substitute.
They're striking the last word.
Move to strike the last word.
Gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect to H.R. 6260, the Keeping Violent Offenders Off Our Streets Act, Keeping Violent Offenders Off Our Streets Act should be the name of a bill to remove ICE officers from our streets. But to digress and go back to this bill, it would define bail bonds as an insurance product, and it's intended to target nonprofit bail funds that raise money to pay the cash bonds of indigent detainees. Well, that's exactly what civil rights marchers needed back in the 50s and 60s when they were being arrested for exercising their right to peacefully protest against this government policy of apartheid for Black people in this country. People were arrested, and you had people like Harry Belafonte and Lena Horne and Sammy Davis Jr., and you had labor unions, and you had the NAACP, you had pastors, you had rabbis, and other good-thinking people who put together funds to bond these protesters, these civil rights protesters out of jail. This legislation would create liability to these fundraising networks that would support peaceful protesters. And have no doubt about it, ladies and gentlemen, the right to peacefully protest in America is under attack. That is what Ms. Renee Good, was doing yesterday, peacefully protesting. She didn't do anything wrong. She had not committed a felony. If she committed a misdemeanor, it would have been a minor traffic violation of impeding traffic. But as you look at the video, you can see her motioning traffic around her before she.
And that's the whole point. The whole point is he said it correctly. Maybe she should have been arrested, and maybe she should have gotten a traffic ticket, or maybe she could have gotten a citation, but it didn't meet the level of getting shot in the face. The violence did not meet the level of getting shot in the face. And you all keep excusing that. You all keep excusing him going all the way to the fucking moon, and he only needed to go to the corner. He only needed to go to the corner. He didn't need to go to the fucking moon by pulling the gun out. That's what we're saying. She was wrong for what she did. That doesn't mean the level of threat was there for him to shoot her. What part of y'all don't get that part? I don't know. I keep talking to slow folks. I keep talking to slow folks. I don't get it.
He was summarily executed. Whether or not you want to call it manslaughter, whether or not you want to call it murder, it's definitely a homicide. And in my opinion, it's when prosecutors get someone who shoots into someone's car who is not an agent of the federal government, they will charge that person with the highest offense, which would be murder. and they'll let the jury decide whether or not it's something less. But it was something, make no doubt about it. When a agent, he wasn't a law enforcement officer, it was just a ICE agent, could have been a goon, the way that they approached that vehicle and scared that woman, told her to get the fuck out the car.
Order.
Yeah, that's what was said. Now,
Yeah, it's the second time the committee
but that is
has
what
had to
the
listen to
agent-
profanity.
That is what that
Ridiculous.
agent told that woman.
This is
And that woman.
It's the House of
and that woman
Representatives.
was
Committee will be in
fearful for her-
order.
that
United States
woman-
House.
That woman was fearful
Stop
for her
with
life.
profanity.
Yeah.
That woman was
Ridiculous.
I would remind the members that there's appropriate language to be used in committee. The gentleman from Georgia controls the time.
Well, I would like to have my 45 seconds.
I've been very flexible on the time, and you will get an extra 20 seconds if you really need it, and we need to
Well-
listen to it. You'll get it.
Well, you're going to censor me now like you're
I'm
trying
not
to
censoring
censor
anyone.
the-
I haven't
the
censored
people
anyone
on the streets
today.
of Minneapolis. It's time to remove these out of control ICE agents who have not had law enforcement training, but yet they're trying to apply the laws of this state to the citizens of that jurisdiction. They are a severe threat to public safety wherever they go. And we need to be holding hearings instead of this committee gave ICE $60 billion to detain and
Murder, to detain and murder American citizens. Gave them $60 billion to obtain, to detain and murder American citizens.
like what that agent was doing yesterday, trying to subdue this peaceful protester, this lady. You gave them $60 billion to do that, and you gave another $858 million for bonuses for these ICE agents that you.
Bonuses for the bonus to murk American people. Bonuses to murk. Not to mention, they knew she was American. Not to mention, we saw that everybody knew she was American. You could have stopped her car. You could have got her license plate. You could have done many things other than pull out your gun and shoot that woman in the face. You could have did many things. Why didn't he do those things? I was under the impression that police officers wanted to do escalation before they pulled out their gun. The gun was going to be the last thing that they did or used. They don't do that anymore. They just pull the gun out. Well, ICE agents do. Well, they're gonna be murking you white folks. They're gonna be murking y'all now because they don't care. They get away with this one, they're gonna be murking y'all too. So
recruit from among the 1,600 plus dangerous people that you have pardoned on January 6th. These criminals that were released back into our communities are now probably serving as goons in ICE, and they've been unleashed on our people. And then this legislation would prevent people who are protesting their unlawful activities. You prevent them from raising money to get these people out of jail on bond. I think it's outrageous that this committee would sit here on this particular day and
y'all seem to think I don't care. I don't care what she was doing. I don't care what she was doing or what he was doing. You have to ask yourself, was it necessary for him to pull a gun out? Was it necessary? Could they have done something else? Could he have done something else? She ran. Let's just in case, let's just take you all scenario. She twisted the car to the right because we saw the wheels. The wheels were turned to the right, and she accidentally hit him. Let's say she hit him. Do you honestly think that him pulling a gun out and shooting her in the face was a necessary thing to do? Or could he have shot a tire or shot through the door instead of her face, or shot the gun in the air and said, stop, otherwise I'm going to shoot you? Or could he have done any other thing? I see many scenarios that he could have done other than shoot her in the face. Shooting her in the face was done maliciously. He didn't need to shoot her in the face. That is the approach I'm coming from. I don't care whether she spit on him, cursed him, did anything. You use lethal force when you didn't need to use lethal force.
Consider this kind.
Yeah, that sound goofy as hell, Sean P. That sound goofy as hell. Go read the manual for police. Then come back here and talk to me.
Of legislation, which does nothing but hurts the First Amendment rights of people under the guise of getting at indigent detainees who are detained by ICE. Shame on this committee. And I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I would just remind the committee that ICE agents have been.
You still hearing my chat? Are you still hearing my chat? Since you don't like what you hear, why the hell would you be in the chat? Just saying dumb shit, but you in my chat. I ain't in your chat. Where's your channel?
And doxxed, tracked, harassed, been interfered with when they're trying to do their job, been shot at in Dallas, all in these sanctuary jurisdictions all over the country. We even had a situation because in sanctuary jurisdictions, they won't comply with detainers that ICE has sent to that jurisdiction.
Your mother's covers.
We had ICE agents walking in the front door as the judge was letting the bad guy walk out the back door.
Under your mother's covers, Justin. Under your mother's covers.
So we all mourned the loss of this individual yesterday, but I think we need to keep some things in perspective. And with that, I would yield to the gentlelady, or recognize the gentlelady from California. Oh, excuse me, gentleman from California. Then we'll go to the gentlelady from California.
Mr. Chairman, I've sat here patiently and hoped the gentleman from New Jersey's recommendation would get back to the substance of this, and there may still be hope. But until that happens, I thought I would, quite frankly, not tolerate this any further. I've listened to a number of things that bother me. One of them is I happen to be from a district that borders the Mexican border. I have 2 secondary checkpoints, 70 plus miles inside the United States, in which Border Patrol agents and ICE operate, to the frustration over the last 4 years before President Trump came to office of being not able to do their job as to drugs or aliens of any sort, including criminal aliens. Ashley Babbitt was a constituent of mine. There was an investigation, and I will live with the outcome of that investigation that said that it was justified based on the fear that that individual had and the protection that he thought he was giving to others.
Now let's have the investigation and see if the same thing occurred to this man. Let's see if that's the same level of fear that this man had with this young lady in the car. He's describing the level of fear that the officer who shot Ashley Babbitt felt. Now let's see if this ICE officer has the same level of fear that would make him pull a gun out.
That was a process. And at the end of the process, her husband wasn't satisfied. People in the community, in many cases, who knew her as a veteran and as a peaceful person who was unarmed, who was, in fact, not carrying any deadly weapon, including an automobile, that she should be dead. It was a tragedy at best. I do not like her being called a felon just because she followed people in to the Capitol. Yes, she could have been arrested. Yes, she could have posted.
They wear masks because they have immunity, Rainbow Kid. They have immunity. That's why they have masks. So you won't dox them and they can get away with murdering people, even because they have the mask on and you won't be able to find them. That's the whole point of the mask.
Bail, and yes, she could have served time. But it's amazing to me that we want to have it both ways here. And this is not to admonish the ranking member, but I want us all to remember, we have to live with the outcome of an investigation. We have to insist on an investigation, and we as an oversight body need to follow up at the end of that investigation to ensure that in fact it was appropriate. And in some cases, we even monitor during the investigation. I think it's premature to ask for a hearing when we couldn't possibly get all of the facts. I think it's inappropriate to look at one video and think that we can make a determination. I still mourn the loss of my constituent, who I believe meant no harm, was making a huge mistake on January 6th, but paid a price that was not scaled to the crime. That may be the same thing that happened in Minnesota. I want to see both federal and state investigations, and I believe this committee has an obligation to look at that.
Jesus, finally, a Republican out of all of you degenerates say something that makes some sense. He's saying it needs to be investigated because he want to find out whether the level of threat was there for him to pull the damn gun out. Finally, you got one goddamn Republican that's using a fucking brain. Finally, at least one.
And hold hearings when appropriate. But I think today we're all spending a tremendous amount of time on a bill that should be debated, that is debatable, that there is a clear difference of opinion on, and get to the merits of it and move on. I will tell you this, as long as I'm a member of Congress, I will not forget or fail to ask for second guessing of decisions so that this body does its job, and that will include Minnesota. But I will join with the gentleman from New Jersey and ask that we please consider the ruckus arguments we can have over the bill before us without digressing into something that I truly believe today is premature, not inappropriate for us to debate, but premature.
Premature. Finally, a goddamn Republican that's opening his goddamn mouth and telling you everybody needs to shut the fuck up and it needs to be investigated. He ain't gonna be declared guilty and he ain't gonna be declared innocent by us running our freaking meat suckers. Get an investigation going. Thank God. You got one reasonable fucking Republican.
Sure. And with that, I will yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's great irony in the title of this bill. Keep violent offenders off our streets. And that is, in fact, what we are talking about. I've listened to a number of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle reference Miss Renee Good saying they don't know if she posed a threat. We don't know what she was thinking. And the fact is, we'll never know because she's dead, because she was killed, because she was murdered. And an ICE agent did not use de-escalation tactics. The ICE agent killed a prospective defendant, if you want to talk about bail, and she won't even get that because she is dead. I think it is wrong to have colleagues say, let's not talk about this until you decide it's time for us to talk about it. No, you are correct. This body is not a jury, but we make determinations all the time in this committee, and we are a jurisdiction of oversight. So at the very least, we should be demanding that the committee do the job of oversight and talk about this case. Use this as an opportunity to debate how our taxpayer dollars are being used, how our government agents are being used, how they are treating our constituents. You know, Kash Patel didn't know who Dylan Roof was, but I do. He killed 9 parishioners in cold blood. You know what? Law enforcement agents didn't roll up in that church and kill him. They used de-escalation tactics. So let's talk about that. You know, I have sat on these kinds of committees before when I was in the state legislature, and I was watching that video of what happened to Miss Good, and I was triggered all over again. As a Black woman with a Black husband, with Black children, I have different kinds of conversations than many on this dais about how we have to take extra precautions. And I am a member of Congress. It is.
Your whole argument is out. Your whole argument is shitty. Because the problem is you don't consider yourself psychotic. And seeing as how you don't consider yourself psychotic, then that's the problem. That's the problem. You think you're normal.
Is a fact that I have to take extra precautions in my family to make sure that my husband and my sons are not killed by law enforcement because of the color of their skin. And you know what that video showed us? Is that all Americans now have to take separate and extra precautions. I thought the mandate for ICE was that they were going to go after criminals that are here illegally.
That's what they said.
Creating crimes. That's that mandate from that video. Miss Good was here legally. And maybe her crime was she was afraid of being shot. And that's exactly what happened. She was not here illegally, and she was not being involved.
She got that whiny voice. Oh, I hate that.
In criminal behavior. And if you all want to say or continue to say that if you obey, then you will not be shot, don't disagree with law enforcement, do what law enforcement says. January 6th happened, and there were a whole bunch of people who rolled up at the Capitol and were disobeying the Capitol Police, who are law enforcement.
Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth, girl.
And they were arrested. And you know what? The President of the United States said, I'm going to pardon you. It is okay for you to disobey law enforcement.
Thank you.
It is okay for you to attack law enforcement.
Thank you.
And 6 of the pardoned January 6th insurrectionists are charged with committing child sex crimes ranging from sexual assault to possession of child pornography.
And the president had jack shit to say when he was acquitting all those people who didn't listen to law enforcement, who attacked law enforcement. He didn't say jack shit about that. Yeah, this is the dumbest shit. This is the fucking dumbest shit that we have ever seen, that in 2025, 2026, we got ICE officers who are supposed to be chasing immigrants, violent criminal immigrants, murking regular, normal, everyday people on the street. Yeah, this is the dumbest shit we ever heard.
At least 33 January 6th insurrectionists pardoned by President Trump have been rearrested, charged, or sentenced for other crimes since January 6, 2021. So don't obey law enforcement, do what you want, and hope that you get pardoned. And this big,
long as it's in the cause of the Republican retards, it's okay. Long as you want to do that with the Republicans, it's fine. You can do all these things. You can do all those things. Attack law enforcement. Don't listen to what they say. You get pardoned. Now y'all talking about follow the rule of law. Now y'all talking about she shouldn't have been there. She shouldn't have did this. She shouldn't have did that. They ain't said jack shit about that when it came to January 6 people, now did they? See the fucking hypocrisy? Shut y'all's ass up. You don't have no room to stand up and say nothing.
Bill, keep violent offenders.
Yeah, you support pedophiles' imagination of innocence. Your goofy president is on the list. Your goofy president is the #1 hit that we trying to get him hemmed up. Let's get him hemmed up. Ask for the Epstein files. Goofy. Your president is the pedophile. You the supporting the pedophiles. It's wild. You ain't glamorizing us. We know your president is trash.
Offenders off our streets. You know, cash bail is not about guilt or innocence. It's not even about the crime. It is about your ability to pay for your freedom while you await trial. This bill goes against the sovereign rights of states. This bill says that we are going to tell your state, my state, how we govern our state criminal justice system. And ultimately, it says if you can afford to pay the bail, you can have your freedom. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for granting me these extra 20 seconds, but I did want to.
They scared they precious Jesus is gonna be in the. Hey, you liberty, what is it? Maggots, you MAGA retards, you MAGA supporters of Donald Trump. I'm talking about the ones that are really xenophobic, not you regular Republican. There's regular Republican, and then there's some of you MAGA, some of you some of you lame folks in here. Hey, just so you know, your president is in the files, and he's done worse than being a pedophile. Just so y'all know, he's done worse than being a pedophile in the files. So now y'all can stop trying to hold his nuts. He's done worse.
Make sure that I talk about this bill and why I don't support it.
In
addition to what has happened yesterday.
Young lady yields back. Young lady from North Carolina is recognized.
He's done worse. That's why he's waiting. Because if he just was sleeping with young women, if the president was just sleeping with young women, he'd be like, oh, fuck it. Let everybody know what I did. It ain't no big deal. They think I done did it. Why don't you just release it and prove that it's right? It ain't no big deal. We don't care. But he did something else. He did something more than just sleep with young girls. Your president did something so fucking heinous that he don't want nobody to see what it is. Okay? He done did something more heinous than sleep with young girls. Because the young girl thing ain't no big deal. Because y'all don't care whether he slept with young girls. He can sleep. Look at Megyn Kelly, goofy ass. Oh, they can be 8. 8 is different from 16. Those are way different things. Look at goofy Megyn Kelly making an excuse for the president. So who cares whether he slew with a girl? He a little girl, young girls. Who cares? It's more than him sleeping with young girls in that file. And he don't want nobody to know what's in them file. Only 1% of the file has been released. Only 1%, which meant 99% of the files they working to redact everything in Trump's name. Because Trump did worst. He did worse than sleep with young girls. I wonder what it is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I know that my colleagues have talked about the situation in Minnesota, which is appalling on so many levels. But this isn't just happening in Minnesota. ICE.
No, your president is a pedophile.
And CBP are exceeding their jurisdiction all over this country, and they're doing it with almost no consequences. Even my Republican senator, Senator Tillis, has been asking for accountability for how ICE and CBP have been operating in North Carolina. They have been picking up U.S. citizens, literally making them feel like they've been kidnapped. I had a woman in my district who was just swept up. She had done everything right. She had work authorization. She came here as a child. She had an attorney. She ended up spending a month in detention before our government said, whoops, it's Christmas. She's been all over the news. Maybe we should let her out. Thank God she got out. But she should have never been picked up in the first place.
They don't care. They have immunity. That's the whole point. These ICE people have immunity, and they're going to allow them to kill American citizens willy-nilly. That's why they have immunity. Y'all ain't getting it yet. It's going to be a lot of you white folks getting murked. I mean, some of them white ladies going to get murked. Yeah, they're going to be murking them too. Because most of the white ladies tend to be libertards, like people in the chat keep calling Democrats libertard. They're gonna be libertards, and they're gonna be obstructing justice. And when they're obstructing justice, they're gonna start breaking them little white girls off. So just let them keep breaking the white girls off. Let them just keep doing it because they got immunity anyway. Go ahead. Your president is a pedophile.
And now, when our citizens are saying enough is enough, do what you said you were going to do. Go after violent criminals. We're all for that. Every single one of us is for going after people who have a violent criminal history, the repeat offenders that I know my colleague, Mr. Knott, talks about. But we are not here to assault our citizens. And we are not here to allow the federal government to violate the rights of people who are protesting or may just be trying to turn their car around. This committee should be about oversight. It should be about preventing and punishing crime, but it should also be about calling out federal agents who are using their authority and legal force improperly.
I can't wait till they lose their majority. I can't wait till they lose their majority. These are such cowards, these Republicans, such cowards. This is a bad look all around. I mean, they're trying to spin a narrative that like we didn't see what we say. Like we didn't see the man jump out of the way. Like we didn't see any of that. Like we didn't see the tires turn to the right. While we didn't see him escalate way above and beyond what he was supposed to escalate to. This is wild. Your president is a pedophile.
We can do both at the same time. And our Constitution demands that we do both at the same time. And when this committee just decides to take one side and not admit when something is wrong, and I'm not here to say it's always the Republicans who do that. Sometimes Democrats do that too. But we need to come together and say when enough is enough. And it's only getting worse. It is getting worse. Because this committee doesn't exercise that kind of oversight, the ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee has had to have her own hearings.
We can't stand you Republicans either, Walter, because you're unfit to govern. You all are unfit to govern. You don't want to govern. You only want power. You only get into power and you only deal with the rich people and you never deal with the middle class people. We're tired of you all too. That's why we can't stand you when you get into power. That's why we didn't want Donald Trump to get into power, because you contribute nothing to society other than getting fat cats richer. That's why we can't stand the Republican Party, because you bring nothing to the table.
At our last hearing, we had more than 20 members, not members of this committee, show up and talk about abuses.
No, I sound like somebody calling out the Republicans for the egregious and greediest people that are in the legislature, and they can't govern because they have no policies and they just take up space. They have no policies and they take up space. Republicans take up no policy. They have no policies and they take up space. And your president is a pedophile.
We haven't had one hearing on that.
Your president is a pedophile.
In this official committee, we haven't had one expression of even unpleasantness with that from the.
Just imagine putting all your hopes and dreams into a pedophile. That's wild. Putting all your hopes and dreams for your happy life, to make more money, to live a better life, into the hands of a pedophile. Make it make sense. That's wild. And Republicans just want to walk right over there and put their life into a pedophile criminal's hands. That's wild.
The other side of the aisle. It is time that this committee does its job. I am so grateful that we actually have a ranking member who's not only doing her job, but the job of the whole committee. She is bringing this to light, and it has got to stop. And with that, I will yield my final minute to the ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee.
Thank you, Ms. Ross, and thank you for your kind comment.
We need documentation. We don't have documentation of Biden. We do have documentation of Donald Trump. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting. You all are scared to ask for the Epstein files. I forgot. You guys are scared to ask for the Epstein file because you know your pedophile president is in them. Your president is a pedophile. Y'all do know that, right? Y'all scared to ask for the real files, right? Let's see how many Republicans is asking for the files, right? Your president is a pedophile. You do know that, right, Beverly? You do know that, right?
And thank you for all of the people on this committee and beyond who have come to those shadow hearings. I've held 5 of them now. The last one had 25 members. We couldn't get everybody in because there wasn't enough time for people to speak. But I just want to go back to the problem that happens when there's a president and a Secretary of Homeland Security who put out propaganda immediately after an incident like this.
This is how he won the last time. All this propaganda, all these false narratives, all these alternative facts. And people believe these alternative facts. No, Beverly, your president is a pedophile. Don't be mad at me. Don't be mad at me. Ask for the Epstein files. Don't be mad at me. Just ask. Y'all keep calling for the Epstein files, please and thank you. Please call for the Epstein files. Your president is a pedophile.
Because I think this is extremely important. In a situation like this, typically you would have gathering of information. That is what local law enforcement was doing, federal agents were doing. And actually, I'm no fan of Tom Homan. I think you all know that. The Trump borders are. But Tom Homan actually tried to be measured initially.
Only 1% has been released. Only 1%, Rainy Day. Only 1%. This president is in the files. They heavily redacted those files. He's in those files big time. And he's done more than pedophile. Even the pedophile thing ain't that big a deal. Y'all don't think the pedophile thing is a big deal. It ain't no big deal. It's, it ain't, it's just another day in somebody's family, sleeping with young girls. Who cares? Y'all don't care. But, he's still a pedophile. Then you need to find out what else he did. But yeah, you do know, Rainy Day, your president is pedophile, right?
He actually he gave a much more measured response, and he said he wasn't going to jump to a conclusion after watching one video or comment on an ongoing investigation. But what happened is Kristi Noem and Donald Trump immediately wanted to spin this. And the people on this committee, very good colleagues on the other side, are doing the same thing. Because when you say that we shouldn't jump to conclusions, you have to understand everybody in America is watching these videos. Everybody in America is seeing what we saw. And so when you say we shouldn't jump to conclusions, remember that the first people that jumped to conclusions were Kristi Noem and Donald Trump. And we are not going.
No, I think we got a lot of evidence, Rainy Day. We got plenty. I think we got a lot of evidence. Y'all want a smoking gun. Nobody said anything about needing a smoking gun. We got enough evidence in court. We got enough evidence in court. If we went to court, we had enough evidence, just like they had enough evidence for those 34 felony charges that Donald Trump got and the E. Jean Carroll indictment. Of course, we have proof. Of course, we have proof. But, it is what it is. You all love your president. Your president is a felon. You do know that, right? Your president is a pedophile, right?
Allow that narrative to continue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The chairman of the Immigration Committee is now recognized, the gentleman from California.
Well, in response to my colleague, I would point out that we all have eyes. We all saw the video. And what I saw was an ICE vehicle that was attempting to leave an area that was in a near riot condition. A civilian vehicle then suddenly moved in front of it to block its departure. I then saw an ICE officer approach that vehicle and issue a lawful order to the driver to get out of the car. Instead of complying with that order, The driver backed up, pointed the car in the direction of another officer, and then shifted into drive, stepping on the gas while the officer had his hand on the door. It then accelerated in the direction of that other ICE officer at the moment that he fired into the vehicle. That's what the video shows. And we all have eyes and we all can see it. There are a lot of questions that it raises, starting with the perspective of the officer who fired at this approaching vehicle. Was the car indeed pointed directly at him when he fired? It certainly appeared that way to me from the video we've seen. I assume the officer was wearing a body camera, and we'll get a better idea of his perspective in the course of the investigation. There's the question of why the driver attempted to block the ICE vehicle as it was leaving, why the driver felt motivated to obstruct clearly uniformed federal law enforcement officers in the performance of their duties, why she willfully refused to comply with a lawful order by those officers, and why she pointed her vehicle toward another officer while hitting the gas. Now, I suspect that a great deal of her motivation was exactly from the kind of incendiary rhetoric we hear every day from our radical Democratic colleagues. It is a direct attack on the rule of law. Our ICE officers are enforcing federal law as the Congress wrote it. The Democrats here don't like that law. They object to its enforcement. And they're actively encouraging citizens to obstruct its enforcement. In a nation of laws, the answer is not to obstruct the law, but to change it. They are sitting in the very institution that writes these laws. If they believe the laws that enforce our nation's sovereignty are wrong, then they should make the case to change them. And to Ms. Ross, I'd point out that when the Democrats had the majority and our nation was suffering through the worst illegal mass migration in its history, the Immigration Subcommittee under Democratic control held not a single hearing on that crisis as it unfolded. Not one.
Who votes for these people? Republicans vote for these liars. He's a liar. Of course he's a liar. That's crazy. That's crazy. But I understand their point of view. I understand everybody's point of view. I understand the point of view that says that maybe he felt like she was going to run him over. I understand that. And maybe she was scared and she needed to get away. I understand both perspectives. I understand both perspectives. But the question is, did it rise to the level of threat that a gun needed to be pulled out and her shot in the face? Did that rise to that level? Answer the question. See, this is the same question that people had about that young boy who stabbed that white boy, the black boy who stabbed the white boy at that school event. When the black boy went under the tent and they, according to him, was harassing him, and he pulled that little whatever knife, that Swiss Army knife out. He pulled the Swiss Army knife out and stabbed old boy in the chest. People were like, he didn't need to do that. It wasn't that serious. He didn't need to pull out no knife. He didn't need to do nothing. He stabbed him and he didn't need to. Good night, Pat. This is the same question that's on the table. That's the same question that's on the table. Did you need to rise to the level where you needed to pull out a Swiss Army knife and stab that young man in the chest? Was the threat that high that you needed to do that? Same thing here. Was the threat high enough where you needed to pull out a gun and shoot somebody in the face? And for me, there's no reason to pull a gun out and shoot somebody in the face, specifically when you could have found her later on. You could have went and arrested her later on. Oh, we got her license plate. She's an American. We're going to go arrest her for obstruction. We don't have to arrest her in the middle of traffic. We ain't got to do jack shit. We can get back to work and do what we got to do. We'll go get her later. We'll go get her at 2:00 in the morning. Fuck up her whole night. But he didn't think that way, did he?
I suspect their encouragement of disobedience to the law had a large role to play.
Nobody said it wasn't a threat. The threat wasn't that high that you would need to pull a gun out and shoot somebody in the face. That's the question. Was that threat that much that you needed to pull a gun out? That's the question.
in the mind of the driver and in the minds of the increasingly violent mobs that our colleagues are deliberately inciting. As Lincoln said,
that's what they carefully forget to remember, Kathy Hall. They told her to leave, and she was in the process of leaving, and her car was turned that way to leave. That's what they keep forgetting. I told you, they will never let you look at the tire tracks. You look at the tire, the way the tires are aimed, they're not aimed at him. They're not aimed at him. The tires are not aimed at him. They're not aimed to run him over. That's the point. The tires were aimed going to the right. He was standing on the left. She was not trying to run him over. No, we're not talking about tire tracks. We're talking about the tires. You need to look at the back of the tires. The one where he's on the left side and they're all on the left side. And she's about to turn. It doesn't matter whether she should have been there or not. Did it rise to the level of him pulling a gun out?
to their predecessors, there is no grievance that is a fit object for redress by mob law. How sad these same words need to be repeated here.
And that's a part of their job. A part of their job is to deal with harassment. A part of their job is to deal with chaos. A part of their job is to deal with unsafe conditions. You act like this is something they're not supposed to be dealing with, CSS.
Before the House Judiciary Committee that's supposed to be dedicated to the rule of law. Now, the bill before us deals with the regulation of bail bonds and simply requires that charitable bail funds administer these funds as they advertise to their donors and be accountable for the administration of those funds according to the standards of their state insurance commissions. And it seems reasonable to me, and I support the bill and yield back.
Well said. Gentleman yields back. I believe it's Mr. Garcia, the gentleman from Illinois, and I think the gentleman from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm going to speak on the cash bail subject when the second bill comes up. But this morning, I feel compelled to speak on the tragic incident that occurred in Minneapolis yesterday, the tragic killing of Renee Good. I do so mindful of the fact that two
in what ICE says was self-defense. For more on that, let's bring in Carrie Urban, Fox News. Carrie, good to have you with. I think we want to just get a look at these videos. Let's do that right now.
Look at her tire. Look at her tire right here. Look at her tire. Look at her tire. Her tire is turned to the right. Look at her tire. Her tire is not aimed at him. Look at her tire. This tire by the feet. Look at the tire. She's not turned towards him. She's turned away, going the other way. She didn't aim to hit him. Where's he at? He's right here. He's right here. There's space between her and him. Where did she turn her tire? Hold on. Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's look at it again. Look at it again. Tires turned. Where was she trying to hit him at? Where was she trying to hit him at when her tires turned the other way? Where? Everybody keeps saying she was aimed at him. Where? He's right here in front of the car. Her tires turned even now with him standing in front of the car. With him standing in front of the car, her tire right by his feet. Her wheel is turned away from him. He's in front of the car right now. Right there. You see her turning. You see her turning. She's not trying to hit him. She's trying to get away. Right there. She's trying to turn away. He was standing over there. Let's go back. Let's do it again. Right there. We see him. Where do we see him at? Let's see. Let's see. Do we see him? Where is he at? Where is he at? Right there. You see him right there? Between the guy standing at her door and her right there. He's right here in the middle. That's him standing in the middle. Right there. He walked up onto the car. He walked up onto the car. Her wheel is turned. Turn. Wheel is turned. Turn. Turned. Where is it that she decided that she was going to hit him? She wasn't trying to hit him. They're lying. They're lying, and if you don't see her wheel is turned. That's where you watch the video from.
Of the first shootings by ICE agents, CBP agents that occurred in this country occurred in my district last year, last summer. First, it was a father of two who had just dropped off his two children at school, was approached by ICE agents, terrified. As he sought to leave the area, he was shot and killed. Then came the shooting of a young woman, a U.S. citizen, shot 5 times, accused by Secretary Noem, by other officials of terrorist activity. Serious federal charges that could have resulted in decades of time in prison. She was a teacher. She is a teacher at a Montessori school. What happened with those charges? They've been dropped, as have other cases of serious charges that have been brought about in my community alone. Almost half of the charges against people have been dropped already. Why is this happening? Because the stated policy is to prioritize the removal of dangerous criminals from immigrant communities, but that isn't what's happening. What's happening is that the aggressive enforcement of legislation that's targeting certain communities is causing terror and grief and fear and trauma to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. It's happening because of the following. Rogue federal agents under the leadership of Secretary Noem, Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, are trampling on people's constitutional rights like we haven't seen in decades, perhaps in the history of our country. They are engaging in obscene ethnic and racial profiling. They are denying due process to people when apprehended. They are masked with military-grade weapons, cussing at people, ordering people to do things, treating people like dirt. U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, people under color of law, veterans. Why is this happening? This indiscriminate treatment of people.
You sound goofy as hell. Stop calling people libertards. You don't see people in the chat talking about Republicans like that. Stop calling people libertards. Because the problem is we're probably smarter than you. Stop it.
People in communities. And 5, the attempted deployments of the National Guard in certain cities and states, thanks to the intervention of the courts and the actions of Democratic attorneys general, that's been halted for the moment because it was unconstitutional, it was illegal. And lastly, the illegal denial of members of Congress to do oversight. We were prevented from doing that in Chicagoland. 4 members of Congress, we took our IDs, we had our pins, we identified ourselves. We were denied that. We had to wait for lawsuits that endured 6 months to have the ability to finally do our job and oversight. So this is why I speak out on this issue, because it's a terrible precedent in our country's history. It will be a shameful episode as we tell the history of America, because we've trampled on the Constitution. We've violated what has been established law in our country, and we've engaged in Gestapo tactics of federal agents that have been encouraged to violate the Constitution and trample on the rights of people in communities all over our country. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to go back to a previous statement by one of our colleagues, Governor Biggs. He said that Democrats have not tried to de-escalate the situation. You know, after the brutal murder of Charlie Kirk, which was domestic terrorism, okay, we tried to de-escalate. After the assassination attempt against the president, which was domestic terrorism, I was appointed to the task force to investigate that assassination attempt. We tried to de-escalate. After the anti-Semitic attack in Colorado, in which you put forward a resolution that included language about ICE's favorable role in that. 75 Democrats voted for that resolution, even though there was no reason to put that in there, but you did it to try to put us on the board. So this idea that that Democrats have said nothing, that we haven't tried to de-escalate, it's just not true. It's just not true. Now, it's not like you guys have any credibility on de-escalation. I mean, literally.
The left, y'all be killing me. Y'all never have any smoke for y'all side. Never have any smoke for your side when your president is doing everything by trampling over the Constitution. Everything. Trampling over everything. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 14th, 15th, 19th, 20th, not the 19th, but he's trampled over so many amendments, it ain't even funny. He trampled all over the Constitution, and y'all don't have nothing to say about that. That's the problem. Worry about your own backyard. Worry about y'all's own backyard. When y'all start holding y'all Republicans accountable, then you start talking about the left. Don't talk about the left until you start holding your president accountable, who's trampled on many, many amendments, many parts of the Constitution since this time he's been in office. Selling pardons is against the Constitution, but he sell pardons just the same. Your president is a pedophile. Accept it.
We're not the ones who told tens of thousands of people to show up to the Capitol and run in here like a mob. And now you all tell people it never happened. You know, like, oh, that's not what the deal was. It's not like every day there isn't some sort of tweet that just escalates and escalates and escalates. And so, listen, I hope one day we could have a hearing on de-escalation. I would love to participate in a hearing on how we together de-escalate. But looking at one party and saying, you don't de-escalate, I mean, that's literally this dialogue on how we do bring down the temperature together. You know, I want to.
Republicans just ain't no good people. They just ain't no good people, and they don't ever want to govern, and they never do anything for the middle class. It just is what it is. I've accepted that. We try to work with the Republicans, but they ain't nobody working. Ain't nobody trying to work with them because they don't want to do anything but sit in power. They don't want to do anything. There's no way that somebody should go around shooting people, American people, and nobody wants to get to the bottom of it. Everybody's already tried and hung the young lady. Instead of doing an investigation, everybody wants to hang her and say, "Oh no, she deserved to be there." And not one Republican is standing up for the lady. Not one Republican. That's all they want to do is give money to the rich. They have no plan. They have no progress for the country except grabbing power. That's it.
You know, we heard about this domestic terrorism thing, right? Domestic terrorism. That was the first thing we heard. I have a question. This is the person. This is the person who, within minutes of the shooting, within minutes of
the shooting, she's out there saying he's not guilty. He has immunity. He's not guilty. He didn't shoot her. He didn't kill her. Did no investigation whatsoever. No investigation whatsoever.
the shooting, went on TV and called it domestic terrorism. What is she, hiding her face like her ICE agents now? She can't show her face either? By the way, is this what the $800 billion went to? Every day we see her after there's some new tragedy in Homeland, she's wearing a different outfit with a different hat. I mean, come on, guys, she looks ridiculous. She's not just an embarrassment to the country. She's an embarrassment to you and the president.
You're an embarrassment. This is embarrassing. For somebody goofy get on in the chat and say this embarrassing shit. You're embarrassing, CSS. Stop talking about libertarians. You're the lefties. Your party has a pedophile for its president. Stop it. Y'all don't have no room to say jack shit. The president of your party is a pedophile.
Okay, she deserves to be removed from her job by the president, and if not impeached, not just for her complete failures in Homeland, but her destruction of FEMA. She's not even running the department. You guys know this. You guys know she's not running Homeland. Your governors and you all, when you need your FEMA money, you don't call Noam, you call Corey. You know she's not running the place. She's a complete and utter embarrassment. By the way, every Homeland Secretary.
Well, we understand that she's an embarrassment. Problem is, they don't mind being embarrassed. Republicans don't mind being embarrassed. They're embarrassed. They're embarrassed all on their own. With that president, they get embarrassed every day. So they don't mind being. They don't have no shame. So let them do what they do. Let's see. Let's see about this. Let's see this meeting. This is the what is it? Minnesota people.
I want to start by speaking to the loved ones of Renee Nicole Good. I am so sorry for your loss. I hope that the memories you cherish offer some small comfort to you in the days that follow. Earlier this week, our community witnessed a horrific event on our streets. Some saw it in person, and many more have seen it circulating online. Whatever your opinion is about what happened, this was a traumatic event. Since this happened, I've been on the phone and in meetings with law enforcement, justice leaders, elected officials, discussing ways to ensure a thorough and transparent investigation, how that can occur and be shared with our office. On Wednesday, our immediate focus was ensuring that an agreement could be reached for a joint investigation with the BCA and the FBI.
Yeah, I remember Christy Knowles said that she didn't want none of them to be involved. No, we want we want people to be involved because we don't want y'all to push this under the rug and say this man is innocent when he didn't have a level of threat there that he's supposed to in order to pull a gun out. We need all the investigators that we can get.
To be clear, and I want to be very clear about this is not because we have concerns about the FBI investigation. Our efforts in advocating for a joint investigation is not an attack on the FBI. We have had a strong working relationship with the local FBI field office throughout my administration. Based on a previous experience with FBI processes, we are concerned that the evidence obtained in an investigation that has only been conducted at the federal level will not be shared with our office for review.
Oh, okay.
In the past, the FBI has invited us to see a high-level overview of their investigation, but we were prohibited from seeing the entire investigation or talking about what we saw in that PowerPoint public.
So they trying to cover up. They trying to cover up this what this young man did. So this young man, the FBI is trying to hide most of him instead of being very transparent. The most transparent administration ever, is trying to conduct a investigation without letting these people know. The Minnesota people know. They ain't trying to hear all that.
Publicly. While I respect the FBI's process, our community's expectations are much different in terms of transparency. This community expects to understand what the evidence is and the justification for any decision that might be made. To that end, I cannot overstate the importance of a local investigation, or at least access to the federal investigation by the BCA.
No, don't listen to that Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem is a grifter and she's a liar, and we can't trust people who already lied to us, who lie to our face and expect us to believe shit we didn't see. Don't believe those people. Do your own investigation.
Without it, we will not.
That's my understanding, Amy. She was dropping off some kids. These goofy people got some weird shit going on. No, she was there to be a antagonistic. She was anti. Stop believing the shit that Kristi Noem and Donald Trump goofy ass done told y'all. She was there to drop her damn kids off. Y'all goofy as hell. She dropped the kids off so she could be an agitator. She followed the police around. She was trying to do some Antifa stuff.
Not have the ability to be transparent with our community about the results of the expectation, or, as I said, any decision that might come of the review. And let me be clear, we have no preconceived opinion on what the evidence will show. Making a
yeah, that's the whole point. Not having preconceived idea of what the evidence shows. Why don't you tell Kristi Noem goofy ass that? Why don't you tell Kristi Noem goofy ass that? Why don't you tell her? Instead of her jumping to conclusions.
Charging or decline decision in an officer-involved case requires us to evaluate the evidence in the context of complicated legal issues. For that reason, we cannot reach a conclusion about any outcome here. Our goal must be to ensure that a thorough investigation is completed at the local level so that our community can have transparency.
No, they trying to make sure that he don't go to jail, and they trying to make it so they trying to make it seem as though because she followed him all day and she was agitating she was agitating him. She made him chase her. She was doing all kinds of things she wasn't supposed to do. She deserved to get killed. That's what they trying to say, because she was agitating him. Lord only knows why they say that, because the mama said that she wasn't doing nothing but dropping kids off. They said she was wilding. She acted without respect to the possible consequence. That's crazy. Just because a person get loud on video don't mean they deserve to get killed. That's crazy. Y'all do know your president is a pedophile, right?
We do not yet know if there will be sufficient evidence without the FBI case file to even make a charging decision. The FBI currently has, for example, Ms. Good's car, the shell casing, and witness interviews. The FBI has taken the car, and so any forensic analysis that comes from that would not be available to us unless they were sharing that. To be
See, they're not trying to shag shit though.
clear, when a state investigation happens by the BCA or any local agency, they submit the case to our office for evaluation of potential charges. The BCA does not make recommendations about what we should be doing. They simply submit the entire case file to us, and our legal professionals take a look at it and decide what the appropriate action is. That is the normal process that we've had here since about 2020. Law enforcement investigates, our office reviews to determine if there's enough evidence to even make a decision.
Yeah, they're not gonna give you the evidence, hon. You just ass out. They're not gonna give it because they're trying to make us. They're trying to present a narrative, and the narrative is they gave him immunity. They're trying to cover up the fact that they gave all of them immunity, and they have a license to kill little white girls. So long as they got license to kill little white girls, hey, y'all go ahead on, do your thing. Yeah. Who cares about this? What is it? CSS. Your president still is a pedophile, though.
And if there is evidence to review, we have jurisdiction to make that decision. So let me be clear here. We do have jurisdiction to make this decision.
And you know what? My proof is better than your proof.
That happened in this case where her life was taken in Hennepin County. It does not matter that it was a federal law enforcement agent. To be sure, there are complex legal.
I don't know. They haven't presented whether he's been abusive or not. I know he's been I know he's been in the law enforcement somewhere. I don't know whether it was a regular cop or he's been ICE for a long time. I don't know. He's been in law enforcement for a while though. He's not brand new. Okay. But see, in order for him, here's the thing I don't understand. He's been in law enforcement all this time, yet and still he has no control about. He don't know how to control himself when it comes to guns. He don't know how to control himself. He just pulled guns out and started shooting people because they gave him immunity. No, we don't need proof. We know your president sleeps with young girls. We know that for a fact. You can't prove that Obama is a bottom, but we can prove that your president sleeps with young girls.
Issues involved.
You do know your president is a pedophile, right?
Involved when a federal law enforcement officer is involved. But the law is clear. We do have jurisdiction to make this decision. We cannot make any decision, however, if there is not evidence submitted to our office. So we are moving forward in collaboration with the Attorney General's office and the BCA to preserve any evidence and ensure that it can be reviewed. To that end, we are asking those in our community who have information or who have video or photos of the event to submit that information to our office.
Yeah, because you know you're not going to get it from Kristi Noem, the lying grifter. You know you're not getting it from her, Miss Photo Op grifter. So you got to do what you got to do. Have the public help you.
We are providing a secure link where people can submit this evidence. The link can.
No, I'm sorry. Y'all goofy. CSS, you goofy. We know y'all zombies on y'all side. We know you were zombies on your side. Jesus. Y'all hate it so much right now. Stop it. Stop it. Y'all hate it so much.
Be accessed using the QR code, which is displayed on the screen beside me. The link will also be posted on our website, hennepinattorney.org. Along with the evidence itself, we are asking people to provide contact information so investigators can follow up. Because it is important to collect and preserve evidence properly, we ask people to provide accurate and complete information on the form on our website. I know our community wants fast answers. I know this city feels again as if it is at the center of a national fight as you are processing everything that is happening here. And I wish I could promise a swift decision and the resolution that you want, but I cannot promise you that right now. Here is what I can promise you. Our offices will work together and have been working together on this and will continue to do so. We will continue to work around the clock to preserve, gather, and review as much evidence as we possibly can. We will be transparent with you to the degree that we can. We know that there will continue to be many questions. This is an active investigation.
He was an experienced officer, so he should have known the level of threat that he was dealing with. He should have known that.
And I do not want to jeopardize any future decisions or processes, so there are likely to be many questions that we cannot answer right now. We know what our job is. It's not to play politics, but to ensure a thorough investigation, seek justice, and to be fair to all involved. And we are committed to doing that. Here's our Attorney General, Keith Holtz.
Well, we don't need to hear from him. We just wanted to hear from these people, and just know that you're just going to be out in the cold, according to what's her name, Christy No. They're going to come up with their own script. They're going to come up with their own narrative. See, and this is the problem. The Republicans have been spinning alternate facts since they got into office. It's always alternate facts. It's never the fact. It's always alternate facts. It's always the Democrat side. No accountability whatsoever. They don't want no accountability. They take no accountability. The only thing they do is demonize the left. The left is the left that Biden did it, Biden did it, Biden did it. Don't have no proof of nothing. Just want to call somebody out because they don't want to look at themselves. Look at themselves. Look at the pathetic thing that they do in Congress. They never take responsibility or accountability. That's why I cannot do with the Republican Party in Congress, because they never take responsibility for what they're supposed to do. They should be having an investigation underway. They should be pulling Kristi Noem into the door saying, what the hell is going on? What are you doing? What are you investigating? But they're not doing that. They're trying to hide, and they're trying to do the shady shit just like Trump. That's why I can never respect the Republican, because they don't want to govern. They just want power, and they don't want to help the American people. It just is what it is. Y'all hit that like, share, and subscribe button, please, and thank you. What time is it? I don't know. I might be back later. You know I like late night streams. I love late night streams. I love 1, 2 o'clock in the morning streams. When people woke, when I don't think people woke, I love to be woke at that time and then have me a stream. Just a wild stream. I don't know. It might be another stream. I don't know. I got something else in mind, but I was thinking about having it tomorrow morning. I ain't sure. But y'all hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Oh, I forgot to put that thing on the board. I always put it on the board because people need help. All people need help. Did I close it out? Oh, shit. I closed it. I put it somewhere. I don't know what the hell I did. Oh, there it is. Hold on. I put it up for people because people always need help. And I'm just trying to help people. I'm just trying to help folks do what they got to do. Okay. And hopefully people will need it, be able to use it, whatever they need to do and use it for. I appreciate all of y'all showing up. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. We just got a video. We always call out our own. We don't never hear y'all call out y'all's. We never hear y'all call out y'all. Specifically, y'all never call out y'all president. So you need to write down the things you call out your president on, and then maybe we have a conversation. But you never call it. Y'all never call out y'all president. Yeah, these are 2 money outfits. They work. I did them I did them one at a time just to see if they work. I did this and it works. That's all you have to do is call, go in there and log in. If your company is in their database, then you can apply for this $3,000 and get it in one day. And if you're in the database of this, you can apply for it and get $2,000 to $4,500 in one day. It just depends on if you're in their database. If your company is in their database, they will give you a loan based on your check. Like $50, they take $50 a week out of your check. Basically, $50 and $55. And I actually did it, just to do it for Christmas. I did it because I wanted to do it for Christmas to see if it worked. And it was very simple. The application process only took like 10 minutes. And 10 minutes, and I had the money 30 minutes later. So this is for people who need help, and it may be in It may be in a they job, may be in a database. I don't know. Look up the website and call these people up and see if maybe they can help you. I appreciated CSS 5326. Appreciate the open discourse. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, and this is the help. I'm all about helping the middle class people. Tomorrow I'm gonna have a show on myths and conspiracies like Freemasons and shit like that. We're gonna have it tomorrow. It's gonna be tomorrow. But I might come back later on for a wild in the middle of the night stream. But who knows? But that's just me. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. Appreciate you all. Appreciate you being here. I will be back. You know I'll be back. You know I will be back. Right? I'll be back.